John Cena. Interesting story here, but it tells a greater narrative. I think there's more to discuss aside from what just happened. But just real quick, let's go over what happened. John Cena, who he's appearing in Fast and Furious 9, and this was an interview that he was doing, and apparently describing. And I knew this made China, in terms of its government, upset, but to this degree is kind of bizarre, because what happens is John Cena describes Taiwan as a interview. Excuse me, not as an interview. In an interview, describes them basically as Taiwan, acknowledging them as a country. And he comes out with this bizarre like apology, and he's right here, and he's speaking like in Mandarin, and the translation is basically, he says he says, I love and respect China and the Chinese people. I don't know if he knew he was saying this. Maybe he had to add, I'm very, very sorry for my mistake. Sorry. I'm very sorry. You must understand. I respect China and Chinese people. Sorry. Goodbye. Look, it was a bizarre thing. It was like if you actually watched it, it was weird, man. It was very, very weird that he had to come out and say that, and obviously doing it in the language that he did and added to it. But the bizarre thing was just the fact of what he's apologizing for, in addition to that. And I don't get it. Like, well, I get it. We'll talk about that in a minute. I get it. But you got to understand, like, these guys are had by the nuts if you're working in Hollywood. And that's I'm not going to say unfortunate. That's the check a lot of them have sought to cash. So it is what it is. And I think a lot of folks like ourselves, like, we are so disconnected from that we just make fun of it, which, okay, we have every right to do it, to sit up here and look at John Cena sitting here speaking in Chinese, or rather, speaking to the rather Chinese people, excuse me, and he is apologizing for what he said about Taiwan and acknowledging them as a look at his face was weird. If you see that video, I'm not going to share it here, but it is a very bizarre video. But it speaks to the reliance that Hollywood has when it comes to China. And that is that, and you've seen this with Marvel, you've seen this with Disney, and they will adjust entire movies. They'll adjust entire movies because they are so reliant upon that demographic. And a lot of these numbers, when we look at how rich a lot of these Hollywood folk are, a lot of these numbers are I'm not going to say fake, but it's a lot of people in China. You wonder why you got sports and all these people like, we don't understand how crappy not necessarily the people, but maybe the government of China, how crappy they are. Why do these people work with this government and what have you? Well, it's because there's a lot of people obviously in China, but that's lining their pockets. And I think what made this so bizarre is that we see kind of firsthand how bizarre it is when that, I guess, it manifests itself. And that is that something as silly as, or trivial as, acknowledging freaking Taiwan as a country gets you in trouble. Now, I would like to give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm not, but let's just throw it out there to say that this is a possibility. He had no idea what it was that he was saying. Not on the Taiwan, speaking about Taiwan, more so him in his apology. I don't want to give him that leeway. I think it's fair and obvious what this was, and look, he may have done it, albeit reluctantly, but he did it. Maybe it came down from his agent. Maybe it came down from the publication, production companies, or whoever, and they said, look, you said something that rubs them the wrong way, and this is going to threaten how good this film does, which ultimately may threaten you in the future. So you need to take care of this, and you need to say whatever appease these guys. Because, again, you got to understand, like, these guys, when it comes to China, they walk on eggshells. Man, again, and it's not just I guess Hollywood and sports kind of goes hand in hand these days anyway. But even with remember people were ragging on LeBron for what he said about was Daryl Morey of the Houston general manager when he said free Hong Kong, and you had the entire league act like, oh, he can't say that. He can't say that. And then LeBron comes out and says, well, this is what happened when you're not informed on you're ignorant or whatever it is that he said, something along those lines, like, how dare you say something that would offend these people? Well, it's because those guys inflate their numbers, and definitely nowadays. See, they're more reliant upon China, Hollywood especially. They're more reliant on China than they've ever been, because a lot of what we see from Hollywood, definitely in the blockbuster movie sense, let's say that, their pockets aren't getting lined up as much by way of the people out definitely in the West, people out generally in America. So they need China to inflate their numbers. They need it. They absolutely rely upon them. Because you imagine that how less rich Hollywood would be if any of it you removed China from the equation. They'd be in more trouble. But I think that's why they're trying to make sure that the CCP is kept happy, because they are totally aware of how they have been suffering in their media over the last couple of years, especially. Now, you can blame it on social justice, you can blame it on whatever it is. I mean, whatever it is that you want to blame it. So they want to make sure that their movie is going to be paid for. Movies are going to be bought, paid for, viewed, whatever, by way of the people of China. And obviously, you can't, considering how that country functions. I don't know why I can't talk today, but considering how that country functions, they have to go through the CCP. But if you watch this video, it was so bizarre. Yes, it reinforces everything that a lot of people say about Hollywood and its relationship to China. But it was so bizarre because it seems trivial to us. It's freaking Taiwan. What's the big deal? You said Taiwan is a thing. What's the problem? And then for him to apologize to the Chinese folk because of it is a bizarre thing, because he's not apologizing to the Chinese people or people of China. Who is apologizing to the Chinese government? And we know that. And I would like to think that he's not stupid enough to know that we're not going to be, or he has to know that we're going to be able to connect the dots. Like, we know why you said it. Like this whole offense thing. No, we know why you said it. But that's how connected that the Hollywood elites are with China. They rely on them. So when you see a lot of this stuff coming out and you wonder the goofiness, remember that even with the Amazon thing, with Lord of the Rings, which was hilarious in itself. And you had them coming out saying they want to appease a global audience. We know what that means, man. You want to ensure that audience, that albeit it may be a big pool of money for you, but now more than ever, you are relying upon them, because a lot of folks are second guessing your media these days, or they realize they can do without it. Maybe not as much as they, back in the gap, it was just so part of our culture. And now, because we have access to so many different forms of entertainment now, and people can have gone without, definitely with this over the last year, they've gone without a lot of this, and they've realized they can go without it, which is why you see a lot of sports, like with NBA, is in the tank right now. Yeah, again, you can blame it on the social justice types. But I think there's another story to it. That is that you get people removed from that because of they were turned off for whatever reason. The product was bad. It wasn't the same. And then the longer period, and this goes for anything. Doesn't matter if you're a musician or anything. This is how it always works. The longer people go without it, the more they're okay with that. Right? They may miss it for a short period of time, like definitely immediately after. But once the further you get removed from it, the less interest that they have in ever coming back. And there's a lot of folks here, and you also consider the competition. And because everything's digital now and people can come up with creative things and entertainment for their audience, also not insulting the customers, but they can come up with things for their audience, and they don't have to be connected to these big agencies or big institutions like the Hollywood elites. So they need China. They need them. China. They need them. They need them. And, I encourage y'all. I'm not going to show it because it's cringy as hell. And we do often watch cringe on the channel, but that was, I don't know. It almost looks like someone was like holding a gun to his like back as he's saying. It was a bizarre thing to view. Maybe someone was holding that, or maybe something else. I don't know. You just watched a clip from my podcast, For Canon's Sake. Catch us live at 12 p.m. throughout the week over at youtube.com/YoungRipper59 and follow us over at odyssey.com/@YoungRipper59. If you want to watch the entire video cast after the show is over, just be sure to become a member on the YouTube channel. Of course, the full audio portion of the podcast is available for free on all major digital platforms, or just visit forcanonsake.com.